Okay, it's 6:10 now. I think we should begin. Hello everyone who are all here. We are here today for the live session of Urban Governance and Development Management, which is an NPTEL course instructed by Professor Uttam Kumar Roy. I am the teaching assistant for this course. My name is Nikita Ranjan and I'll be taking weekly live sessions for this course. In these live sessions, we will be solving problems which were assigned in earlier runs of this course. So do not get confused. These are not the questions which you are assigned this week or would be assigned other weeks. These are questions which were assigned in previous runs of this same course. So it is supposed to be a practice session for you to give you an idea of how the questions which you are assigned in the assignments are to be solved, how you are to approach them, and it will help you solve your assignments for which you will be evaluated. So today is assignment 1, week 1. So this is the assignment which was assigned after the week 1 of lectures were covered in the previous run. So the course run is the same every year. So the lectures covered would be same. So this is just an overview of the lectures which were covered this week. So first week is just the explains what the general basic concepts and legal provisions which are related to urbanization and urban governance. So these are the 5 lectures which you would have covered. First is Introduction to Urbanization, in this you would have covered basic definitions related to urbanization and urban governance. Then you would have covered some basic urban data like growth rate, sex ratio, urban density, all these kind of data you would have covered. You would also have had a look of how cities are categorized based on population and jurisdiction criteria, and also sometimes based on functional categories. You would also have covered some major urban issues which the cities face. Second is Introduction to Urban Governance. You would have covered basic concepts and definitions of urban governance. Core values of urban governance. You would also have covered indices and indicators which are used to measure how well any urban governance system is in any urban area. Then constitutional provision for urban local governance. So in this you would have covered the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, formation and representation of the urban local bodies. You would have covered the municipal functions of the 12th schedule, the administrative and financial functions of the urban local bodies, and a little bit about the district planning committee and the metropolitan planning committee. Next is the legislative provisions. In this, you would have largely covered the municipal laws, different components of the municipal law, definition of different things, how they are structured, what are the different categories of ULBs, what are the different rules and regulations, that kind of thing. And the last for this week was organizational interfaces, in which you would have covered different types of interfaces, both horizontal and vertical. They would have been intergovernmental interfaces, interorganizational interfaces, as well as intragovernmental interfaces. So this is all you have covered this week. So now I'll be starting with the questions. If you have any doubt about any of the questions which I'll be starting next, please type in the message box which is over to the right. and I can look at your question and I can answer your question if you have any doubt. You are all muted because it would be too much interference for if everyone starts talking in between. So you can just type in your question and I can address your question when I'm finished explaining the question. Also, please do not ask any questions related to your current assignment because I am not supposed to answer those questions. You are supposed to solve them yourselves as you would be evaluated on those questions. So please ask questions only pertaining to the problems which I'll be solving here in this session. Okay, let's start now. So the first question is, urban areas in India are classified into statutory towns and census towns. So is this statement true or false? So this statement is true. You would have covered this in your lectures. So as you can see, there are two ways in which any town in India, any urban area in India is classified or given a status of a town. First is by statute. So see, statutory towns, they can be defined as all places which have a municipality, a corporation, a cantonment board, or a notified town area committee. So all of these towns have a statutory body in place. So what is a statutory body? A body, urban local body, which has been established as a governance urban local body in that place by some statute. So what is a statute? Statute is an act of legislature that declares, prescribes, or commands something, a specific law, or expressed in writing. So all of these towns would already have a statute which declares them to be a town, and they would have a urban local governing body which takes care of the governance of that town. So those towns are known as statutory towns. Apart from the statutory towns, there are other urban areas. So as you know, the process through the process of urbanization, different different places which were not urban earlier could also be undergoing a process in which their population structure, population density might be changing. So they might be getting converted to an urban to the status of an urban area. So how it is determined if a place has reached or can be called as an urban area. So it is defined by the census definition of towns. So the census definition has three criteria, which you might have studied in the lectures already. I have written those here. So the first is it should have a minimum population of 5,000. This is the first criteria. Second is it at least 75% of the male working population. It should be engaged in non-agricultural pursuits. So it can be anything ranging from the secondary and the tertiary sector, any manufacturing or service sector activity. It should just not be related to any agricultural pursuit. And the third is the density of the population, which, as they have already mentioned, the first criteria, the population should be 5,000. But another criteria which should also be satisfied is that the density of the population should be a minimum of 400 persons per square kilometer. So it shouldn't be that the place has a population of 5,000, but the population 5,000 is so sparsely populated that the density is less than 400%. In that case, the place would not be considered as a census town. So these are the criteria. If satisfied by any place, the place would be considered a census town. Do any of you have any queries for this question? I can see your messages. If anyone has a query, you can put it, or I'll just move on. Okay. So next question. Next question is, as reported by Census of India 2011, the number of class 1 or tier 1 cities in India is how many? So to get this information, you need to visit the Census of India website. There you might find this information, or you would have taught this information. You would have been taught this information in the lecture as well. So first, it's important to recognize what class 1 or tier 1 cities are. So you might have been, you might have uh, you might have seen how different classes of cities are classified according to the population. So let's start from the bottommost one, which is class 6 cities, class 6 towns or cities. So any city or town urban area which has a population more than 5,000 is considered to be a class 6 city. Then class 5 is any urban area which has a population more than 5,000 to 10,000. Class 4 would be 10,000 to 20,000. Class 3 would be 20 to 50,000. Class 2, 50 to 10,000. And class 1 is greater than 1 lakh. But here you can see it is mentioned class 1 is 1 lakh but below 10 lakh or 1 million. So as soon as you go above than 1 million, it the city is not only a class 1 city, but it becomes a million plus city or a metro city. So our question here is the number of class 1 or tier 1 cities in India. So as you can see here from the figure, there are more than 400 class 1 cities in India. So the answer for this question is more than 400. Okay, I see no doubts. So we'll move on to the next question. Next question is, in the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act of India, how many function of urban local bodies are provided under the 12th schedule? So few keywords here. First is 74th Constitutional Amendment Act. Second, 12th schedule. So in order to answer this question, you need to know what both these terms mean. So 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, it is a landmark constitutional amendment act which gave the basis of formation and representation of urban local governance in Indian cities. So apart from providing this, it also the act also gave guidelines of the basic functions and functioning any urban local governance body would be performing, and the decision making and planning frameworks which any urban local governance body would have. So 12th schedule, as we see here, the 74th CAA, which is Constitutional Amendment Act, it also outlines basic functions as we see here. So these basic functions, they have been provided in the 12th schedule. So 12th schedule, which is the Article 243W of the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, this is the document which outlines the different function which any urban local governance body is assigned. So this is a list of all the functions which they are assigned. You can count from here. There are a total of 18 functions. So the answer for this question would be 18th. You can take a look at different functions which a city is assigned according to the 74th Constitutional Amendment. So they range from urban planning to water supply, planning of economic and social development, to poverty elevation, provision of different amenities, keeping a record of vital statistics like birth and death registrations, uh, even regulation of slaughterhouses and tanneries, burial grounds, uh, cattle pounds, everything. So these are the different functions which the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act assigns any urban local governance body. Okay, moving on to the next question. According to Census of India, what is the primary basis for classification of cities and towns in India? Okay, so it gives four options. So let's see the answer. So the answer for this is population. So as you've been seeing in previous discussion, uh, that we've been discussing based on this population criteria, how uh, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 different tiers of cities are divided. But you might be wondering if this is the only criteria which the census of India has defined, or are there other criteria? For example, you might have seen uh, based on different uh, different uh, classifications of cities or different cities or towns, you have different governing bodies. For example, you have municipality for cities, municipal corporations for larger cities, you have nagar panchayats nagar panchayats for transitional area cities or urban areas which are transitioning from rural to urban. You have ward committee, you have area sabha. However, this is not the correct answer for this question, because although different cities have different governing bodies and it is decided according to the status they have, but that criteria is not the criteria for classification of the cities. The primary basis for classification is the population only, not the governing body. There is also we discussed cities are I'm so sorry. Cities are sometimes classified based on their function. You would have seen different city types based on their functional characters in your lectures. However, this uh, criteria for classification is not used by the Census of India, though that is additional classification criteria which is used for functional issues to cater to functional issues related to the city, but they are not used for classification of the cities and towns in India. Another important point here is built environment character. So what is built environment character? Built environment is all any buildings, any other urban development which is there in an area that is considered as built environment. So what is the character of the built environment? Can that be used as a classification to define what is which kind of, like what how to classify different cities? Can it be used? So if you see from the eyes of a layman, maybe this could be used. Someone could say ki, if you see it at the character of the built environment of a rural area, they have more kacha houses than pakka houses. Uh, if you see an urban area, they have more pakka houses. If you see the built character of a highly developed city, a huge mega city or million plus city, they have specialized infrastructure for things. So their built environment character is very different from a smaller city. So maybe this could be used as a way of classifying, but again, this is incorrect. Although there are certainly very visible differences in the built environment character of different classifications of city, but these differences are not used for the classification of especially by the Census of India, as it is very difficult to define based on the built environment character which class of city should have what kind of built environment. So uh, the primary basis of classification is a very basic thing which is used by the Census of India, and that is the population. Okay, moving on to the next question. What does the term DPC stands for? So this is a very easy one. The term DPC stands for District Planning Committee. So you might have gone through this during your lectures, but I'll elaborate just a little bit. So a district planning committee, as you might know, it takes care, it was provisioned by the 74th and Constitutional Amendment Act, and it was provision to make district plans for three things: either to integrate with the local plan, or to approve the local plan, or to revise or suggest revisions in the local plans. So as you know, a district is a larger area uh, which might have uh, several urban areas, cities or towns like this, and then rural areas as well. And these, they might be connected with each other and they would be a part of a district. So if you see, if you have to make a plan for the whole district, any of the individual urban local governance body of a village or a city cannot make decisions for the whole district. It cannot make a plan for the whole district. So for the purpose of making a district plan to integrate the whole to integrate the local plans of all the districts together, the district planning committee was instructed to be formed by the state governments uh, by the provisions of the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act. Okay, moving on to the next question. Part of an urban area, usually residential community, within commuting distance from the center of the town or city is known as suburban area. So is this statement true or false? So this is a true statement. Let's look at why and how uh, can we say this is a true statement. So this is a diagram which you might have come across in your lectures. So you can see this is a suburban area which has been marked in this diagram, and you can see this blue line is the municipal boundary limits, and the suburban area which is marked in this diagram lies within the municipal boundaries. However, you look at the statement and the statement says part of an urban area, usually residential community, within commuting distance from the center of town and city is known as suburban area. So another thing which you need to keep in mind is that uh, this doesn't have to be within the municipal boundary limits of the city where the people are commuting to. It can be another suburban area here or here or here. The only criteria this area needs to satisfy is that it should be on a commuting distance within the commuting distance to the main city. That is all. That is the main criteria which needs to be satisfied by an area to be called as a suburban area. Okay, next question. Identify the incorrect condition for a census town. Okay, so this might seem easy to you, as we just went through the three criteria which uh, identify any town as a census town. So, but do not get confused between statutory town and census town. So, the answer for this question is the census town need not have an elected municipal government to be present. If an elected municipal government is present, it would be known as a statutory town, uh, as the town has uh, uh, municipality, corporation, cantonment board, or a notified area committee, which is a elected municipal government which is there. So in that statement is true for statutory towns, not census town. Other statements, however, are true for any census town. So the first is population should be less than 5,000. Second is the criteria that at least 75% of the male working population must be engaged in non-agricultural pursuits. And the third is population density should not be less than 400% per square kilometer. So these are all criteria which uh, are listed by Census of India as criteria which make any urban area a census town. Any doubts so far? No one is asking anything so far. Please feel free to ask. Please do not hesitate. You might find thinking that your question is very small or unimportant, but do not feel that way. People from various fields and various areas come for this course with different specializations, so I can very well understand that you something which I might just skip as a term, I would not explain it and skip it over thinking that it's a term which you might be understanding. But if even if you have doubt understanding any basic term, any basic question, please do not hesitate to ask. I'll be checking on the message box, and if anyone has any question, please drop it in the message box. I'll answer. Okay, moving on to the next question. Uh, According to the UN Habitat, which governance index, urban governance index, which is UGI indicator, comes under indicators of equity? Okay. Uh, so the answer for this is Citizen Charter. So the Urban Governance Index, which you might have studied in your lectures, it is a index with several different indicators, and the indicators are divided into several different heads: uh, equity, effectiveness, participation, accountability, all of these heads. So you can see here uh, among all these different options which are listed as your options, the option Citizen Charter comes under the subhead equity. Other things which are vision statement, mayor selection and codes of conduct, they do not come under the head equity. Vision statement comes under effectiveness. Uh, mayor selection uh, Mayor selection might come under participation. I cannot see it here. You might be able to see better. And codes of conduct comes under accountability, as you can see here. So you can see Citizen Charter is the only one which comes under the head of equity. I'm just explaining a little bit what equity means so that you are a little more clear on why the indicators which fall under the head of equity, why they fall there. So the indicator of equity, it represents equity of access to decision-making processes, and basic necessities of community life. Okay, so what it means that urban governance body should be such that it should provide equitable access. I'm sorry, I just uh, said equal, which is not a correct term to be used here. Equitable access is the correct term. So it should provide equitable access for the decision making processes as well as basic necessities of community life. Okay, so you see here, if you see the term equitable decision making process, and you see here in the equity women counselors. So as you all know that the participation of women in the decision making process in any urban governance setting, it is always lacking because of the systemic inequalities women face in in any social system. So in order to ensure that women are getting an equal access to the decision making process, several times reservations are included for women counselors. So this indicator here, which says women counselors, this addresses to that part. So it is a measurable indicator which measures what percentage or how many women counselors are present in any urban governance body, and in that way it can accurately assess if there is an equitable participation of women in the urban governance system. Another thing which you might see is equitable access of basic necessities. For this, you see pro-poor pricing policy here. So why do we need a pro-poor pricing policy? It is because the poor and the people from weaker section of the society, they do not have access to basic needs as they have low affordability. They cannot afford even the basic necessities which most of the other sections of the society can afford. So in order to make the basic necessities affordable for the poor as well, we make policies, we make pricing policies as it is mentioned here, which makes basic necessities and amenities affordable to the poor as well. So what you need to understand that equity is not equality. So when we say equality, we just mention the same equal solution for everyone. It doesn't matter if it supports everyone in the same way. It makes the outcome uh, the same for everyone. It makes the things accessible in the same way for everyone. However, when we talk about equity, the uh, the solutions or the inputs which we are providing, they could seem unequal. For example, the reservation which we provide to women counselor, or poor pricing policy which we provide for the poor but not for other sections of the society, or targeted infrastructure for disabled. As you can see here, it might seem a special treatment for the weaker sections or the vulnerable sections of the society, but it is a step towards equity which ensures that these different sections of the society have an equitable access to the different basic needs, necessities, services which other people in the city or a system have. So that is what we mean by equity here. I hope it is clear to everyone. This was the last question for this session. Thank you everyone who has attended the session, who has come. Uh, I'll take any questions which any one of you have. I'm here. And if anyone of you has any questions, please, uh, post them. not many people are present here, but that is quite okay. I'm sure that there might be some hindrances in attending these live sessions. They are meant for you. If you can attend them at your convenience, you can pose questions. Ankit Kumar asks, ma'am, is there any drawback in the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act? Okay. So, Ankit, there are several, it's a debatable issue and it has been debated by several academicians, people from the people who are working in the field, from the local governance bodies or citizens, and it has been researched upon by academics as well. So, as many things, even the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, it's not a act which does not have any drawbacks. So there definitely are some drawbacks. I'll give you just one, and it is my opinion. This is not a drawback which everyone from the academic community or the urban governance, the practicing community would agree to. But you see, the urban local governance bodies, they are assigned with several functions like urban planning, construction of roads and bridges, uh, regulation of land use and construction, which they were not assigned with before. So, in case of many urban local governance bodies, especially the bodies which are there in the transitioning cities, transitioning towns, or smaller towns and cities, they do not have the expertise to undertake these functions properly. So, in a way, the Constitutional Amendment Act assigning this function directly to the urban local governance body isn't justified unless they have the proper capacity to tackle the task. And incidentally, it's not only me who has noticed this flaw. The local governance bodies themselves and the state governments, they also have noticed this, uh, you can say, drawback or flaw here. So that is why if you see the real ground reality of who undertakes these functions in the city itself, you can see urban governance, there are town planning committees, then there are state government bodies, then there are parastatal bodies. All of these take part in how these functions are delivered and managed in cities. It's not just the urban local governance body which takes care of it, but other governance bodies, they belong to the central government body, the parastatals, the state government body, and even other organizations like the UN. They also come in and they help the local governance body in undertake these tasks. So it is a good thing that the local governance body has a power to make decision uh, for their own city. As being a local governance body, they are more aware of the needs of the city. However, in the lack of capacity which the local governance bodies have, make this a little debatable if this is a correct function to assign to them. But again, there are provisions which the local governance bodies have, uh, with the help of different other different organizations, they take care of these functions. So this is one. There might be other drawbacks, several other drawbacks. If you want to study about it, I will recommend going on to Google Scholar and searching for research articles which have been written about the effectiveness of the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act. Okay. Thank you for your question, Ankit. I hope it is clear. Any more questions from anyone? Okay. I do not see any questions apart from Ankit. I see here Yogesh and Sagar. So I think as you are not posing any questions, I think you are all clear on the questions we have solved so far in this live session. Someone has joined. Hello Raghav, you've just joined the session. We have just finished discussing the questions. You can take a look at the questions we have discussed so far, and please feel free to ask any doubt which you have. I'll just scroll through slowly so you can take a look and ask any questions because we still have time till 7, so I'll do it. Anyone else also, if you have any questions, if you have any doubt, if you come across anything while I'm scrolling, please let me know. I'm sorry about that. That is the end of uh, the presentation. Does anyone have any doubts? Okay, so I'll consider this as the end of the session as anyone has no doubts to discuss. All of these sessions are being recorded, and all of the recording of the session as well as this presentation, both these will be shared with you as you might have received links where these are stored by the NPTEL, whoever is providing you links to join this live session. Apart from that, you can also ask any questions related to this session on the discussion forum, NPTEL discussion forums. I'll be going to the questions there as well, and I'll answer the questions there if you have any doubts. I think that is all for this session today. Thank you everyone for attending, and I'll see you in the next session next week, Tuesday, same time. Thank you everyone. Goodbye.